there was a decomposing body of a young girl.
Hi, Oddings. Welcome to Stories with Sapphire. I'm your the Sapphire. The following story is loosely based on a true story from the Philippines.
And now, it's story time. Dala was on her way to first period when she felt that familiar gurgling in her stomach. Perhaps cold leftover pizza wasn't the best idea for breakfast. The 5-minute warning bell resounded through the hallway. Everyone around her began to scurry to their classes. Dala was already on her final strike with Mr. Bautista, her algebra teacher, and didn't want to risk being late again. But there was no way she could hold out for the next 50 minutes. So off she went. The nearest bathroom was for faculty with an out-of-order sign. Dala didn't care and ran inside. As Dala sat on the toilet, she looked around the restroom. No wonder it was out of order, she thought. It was an absolute mess. A strange knocking interrupted her train of thought. She glanced around the room until she realized it was coming from the timba. A timba is a giant bucket filled with water that's common in Filipino restrooms. Inside is a smaller bucket called a tabo or kubo that you use to scoop the water, which you then pour into the toilet to flush it. This helps conserve water in areas where there's shortages. The timba in this bathroom, however, was boarded up with wood. The unsettling pattern repeated itself over and over. It was probably the tabo knocking around inside, she figured. When she finished, she walked over to the bucket and began to pry the pieces of wood off of it. There was no tabo inside. Instead, there was a decomposing body of a young girl. Dala raced out of the bathroom. Out of breath, she tried to explain to Mr. Bautista what she just saw. She hurriedly escorted him back to the bathroom. They looked inside the timba and there was no dead body, only water. As you can imagine, Mr. Bautista was not pleased by this massive interruption. He sent Dala to the principal and she was given 3 days suspension to cool off. That night, Dala couldn't sleep. All she could think about was that horrific sight. Did she really just imagine it? Did the pizza wreck her that badly? It all felt so real. There was also that eerie knocking. What could that have been? Dala stared at her closet door. There's no way. The knocking continued. Dala crept out of bed and made her way toward the closet. It's just my imagination, she kept repeating to herself. She gripped the handle and threw the door open. The dead girl was staring right back at her. Dala screamed and slammed the door shut. She caught her breath. The room was silent. She opened the door again. The girl was gone. Over the next 3 days, Dala would continue to hear knocking coming from her closet and all throughout her home. It followed her wherever she went. The lack of sleep was making her crankier and groggier. She didn't understand why this spirit was torturing her. When her suspension was over, Dala was so happy to return to school and not be stuck at home with the knocking ghost girl anymore. Focusing on her classes would at least provide a distraction if the ghost continued to haunt her. The sleepless nights had really caught up to her. She was trying her best to focus and stay awake in Mr. Bautista's class. She was safe in here, she kept reminding herself. Dala's vision went blurry just before she heard. Dala jerked in her seat and repressed a scream. Mr. Bautista shot her a warning glance. No, not again. Dala watched as the door creaked open, revealing the janitor. "Just coming to empty your trash," he said cheerfully. Dala exhaled a sigh of relief. It was just the janitor. Dala's eyelids were fighting to stay open. It is kind of strange, though, she thought, as her head kept nodding sleepily. What are the odds he would knock just like that? Dala's eyes flung open and her head shot back. The ghost girl was standing right next to her desk, knocking furiously. She pointed at the janitor, the marks around her neck. She gestured back at the janitor's roll of trash bags. Dala began to connect the dots. The body she found was definitely real. She raised her hand. Mr. Bautista, there's something important I need to tell you. The janitor was later arrested for murder, and the girl's spirit was able to move on in peace. It's not always easy to know who the real monster is it?